Welcome back, learner, to another deep dive. Today, we're looking at a rather terrifying reality. Basically, your biological hardware is perfectly fine, but your body is constantly being hacked by corrupted data.
Yeah, it's a profound shift in perspective, really.
It totally is. Like, imposter signals are just flooding your system, and it's causing the machinery to crash.
Right, because we're so used to thinking of chronic illness as a broken part, you know. But what we're looking at today suggests the system isn't broken at all.
Oh, wow.
It's just trying to read a language it was literally never built to understand.
Exactly. And we're pulling all of this from an incredibly fascinating and honestly potentially life-changing set of research centered around a text called The Body Logic: Navigating Artificial Toxicity and Natural Intelligence.
It's quite a title, but it delivers.
It really does. Now, before we get into the weeds, I want to set a clear mission for you listening. This isn't meant to be a paranoia manual
Right, we aren't here to make you terrified of the grocery store.
or the water from your tap. Think of today as more of a map of recognition. Our goal is to help you understand exactly why artificial things harm the body, where they're hiding in plain sight, and how you can make practical, sovereign choices to protect yourself.
Without having to, move off the grid and live in a cabin.
Exactly. Okay, let's unpack this. The foundational idea we need to establish is that living systems, like your body, are not neutral, unthinking machines.
No, not at all. They're highly intelligent communicating organisms.
Yeah, and that intelligence is really the anchor for everything we're going to discuss, right?
Absolutely. Because to understand how to avoid these modern imposters, we first have to understand how the human body reads the environment around it.
Okay.
The research introduces this brilliant biological rule called the coherence principle. Basically, every single cell in your body is, at its core, a pattern recognition system.
Because, I mean, millions of years of evolution have tuned those cellular receptors to recognize specific natural signals, right?
Yeah.
It's expecting the things that evolved alongside.
That's the key right there.
Yeah.
Your biology built its entire chemical language around things like whole plant compounds, mineral-rich water, the actual spectrum of natural sunlight,
Oh, right.
and even specific soil bacteria.
Yeah.
When those natural signals dock with your cells, the body knows exactly what to do with them.
It just reads the code.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But artificial substances, so we're talking synthetic chemicals, isolated vitamins, engineered flavorings, they carry only partial signals.
Okay, wait. So is this like trying to plug a USB-C cable into an HDMI port? Like the body expects a specific holistic data transfer, but the artificial compound just jams the machinery because the shape of the data is all wrong.
Is a lot like that,
Yeah.
actually. But I'd even take that analogy a step further.
Mm.
It's not just that the cable doesn't fit, it's that the port itself gets damaged in the attempt.
Yikes.
Yeah, the body tries to process these partial signals using the biological machinery it uses for real things. So you consume an artificial sweetener, for example.
All right.
The taste receptors on your tongue register sweetness. They immediately signal the pancreas to release insulin to handle the incoming sugar.
But the sugar never arrived.
Exactly. The sugar never arrives. The body gets completely confused. It can't complete the metabolic conversation.
So what does it do?
Well, it either stores the artificial compound, creates inflammation around it, or it just sends misfiring signals in response.
Wow.
Yeah.
Which totally flips the whole script on chronic illness. I mean, the system isn't failing. It's a system evolved for truth, and it's reacting entirely appropriately to a biological lie.
Precisely. And this leads us to what researchers call the denial of intelligence.
The denial of intelligence.
Right? It's this rather arrogant assumption in modern chemistry and nutrition that we can just strip nature down to isolated parts and get the exact same result.
Okay, the carrot matrix is such a great example of this from the text.
Oh, it really is.
We look at a carrot and say, oh, the beta carotene is the good stuff. Let's extract that, put it in a pill, and completely ignore the rest.
But a whole carrot is a complete biological communication.
Right.
It has specific fibers that feed your gut microbiome, and those microbes, in turn, help process the beta carotene. Plus, the carrot contains other carotenoids that act as like a symphony to modify how that beta-carotene acts in your liver.
So when we extract just the one molecule,
We're stripping away the barcode that tells the body how to actually read it.
that is wild. We think we're outsmarting the system, but we're really just feeding it fragmented code.
Exactly.
But wait, I have a question here. If these artificial signals and fragmented codes are literally everywhere, shouldn't our bodies just filter them out? I mean, we have livers, we have kidneys. Why is this suddenly such a crisis?
Well, your maintenance systems are brilliant. There's no question about that.
Sure.
If you encounter a synthetic toxin occasionally, your liver's enzymatic pathways can generally break it down and excrete it.
Okay, so what's the problem?
The issue is a concept called the total body burden. We are no longer dealing with isolated, occasional exposures.
Ah, it's the constant cumulative load.
Yes, it is a relentless drip. It's coming from the water, the food, the packaging, your cleaning products, the off-gassing of your furniture all at once, every single day.
Wow.
And when the liver simply cannot process the backlog fast enough, the body has to stash those toxins somewhere to keep them out of your bloodstream.
Because it prioritizes keeping the blood clean above everything else, right? So it just shoves these compounds into storage.
Exactly. It stores heavy metals in your bones, literally mistaking them for minerals like calcium.
Oh, that's terrible.
And more concerningly, it stores a massive amount of modern toxins in fat tissue. Because many of these industrial chemicals are lipophilic, meaning they're fat-soluble, so they naturally bind to lipids.
Okay. And what is the fattiest organ in the human body?
The brain.
The brain.
Yeah.
Which explains so much. The harm isn't this dramatic poisoning event where you just fall over in the grocery aisle.
No, not at all.
It's this slow, invisible accumulation. It looks like chronic fatigue, brain fog, sudden food allergies, hormonal issues. The system just gets totally bogged down by the total body burden.
Which means, since the danger lies in the accumulation of these daily exposures, we have to map out exactly where you are encountering them.
Right. So let's start with the absolute baseline of human survival, water.
Water is huge.
We turn on the tap and assume it's safe just because it's transparent.
But tap water is a major vector for this invisible load.
Yeah.
Municipalities treat water to prevent immediate acute diseases like cholera.
Which is obviously important.
Very important. They use chlorine and chloramine to kill pathogens. But the problem is, they're essentially trading an acute biological problem for a chronic chemical one.
Right, because killing the bacteria isn't the end of the chemical reaction. The research highlights these things called disinfection byproducts.
Yes, when chlorine reacts with naturally occurring organic matter in the water, like decaying leaves or soil, it forms completely new compounds called trihalomethanes.
And those are bad, I assume.
The biological impact is significant. Several of them are classified as probable human carcinogens.
Oh, wow.
And then add to that the fluoride, the heavy metals leaching from aging infrastructure, and the pharmaceutical residues from millions of people excreting medications.
Right, pharma residues in the water.
Yes. Water treatment plants were simply never designed to filter those out.
Okay, I want to push back here because the immediate reaction for anyone listening is, fine, I'll just install a massive reverse osmosis system under my sink.
Sure, that's a common thought.
But doesn't reverse osmosis strip out literally everything? You're pushing water through a membrane so fine that you lose all the calcium, the magnesium, everything. Aren't you just creating dead water?
Right.
How is drinking a chemically pure, mineral-void, liquid biologically coherent?
That is a phenomenal piece of pushback, and you were entirely correct.
Oh, I am?
Yes. Drinking pure, stripped reverse osmosis water long-term is essentially drinking a hypotonic solution. It can actually pull minerals out of your body's tissues to balance the osmotic pressure.
Oh my gosh. So it makes things worse.
It can. The solution isn't just to strip the water, it's to strip the water to remove the industrial toxins and then intentionally remineralize it.
Oh.
You have to add food-grade sea salt or specific mineral drops back into the water so it matches the electrical conductivity your cells expect.
So you reset the baseline and then rebuild the coherence. That makes total sense.
Yeah.
And I assume bottled water is not the shortcut out of this either.
What's fascinating here is that bottled water is often just municipal tap water that's been refiltered and wrapped in plastic.
Of course it is.
And that plastic packaging is a secondary harm vector. It leaches endocrine-disrupting microplastics and chemicals like BPA or its industrial cousins BPS and BPF.
And these chemicals literally mimic hormones, right? Like they bind to estrogen receptors.
They do. They send a completely false hormonal signal to your cells.
Mhm.
And because of this plastic reliance, we are now finding microplastics everywhere. In human blood, in breast milk, in the placentas of newborn babies.
That is heartbreaking.
And even recently, embedded in the tissue of the human heart.
Which is just a terrifying testament to the total body burden.
It really is.
But we have to move from water to food because the grocery store is basically ground zero for this.
Yeah.
The sources use the Novier classification system to talk about processed foods, and it really clarifies things.
It's a great framework. The Novier system categorizes food not by calories or macros, but by the extent of industrial processing.
Okay.
So Group 1 is whole foods, apples, raw meat, nuts. Group 2 is culinary ingredients like olive oil or butter.
Makes sense.
Group 3 is processed foods like canned beans or fresh cheese. But Group 4 is where the real danger lies. Ultra-processed foods, or UPFs.
And the key distinction is that Group 4 foods aren't just junk food, they are industrial formulations.
Precisely. They are largely made from substances extracted from foods, starches, added sugars, hydrogenated fats, rather than the actual foods themselves.
Wow.
The physical processing alone, using extreme heat and extrusion, destroys the original food matrix. So even before we get to the chemical additives, the physical structure of the food has been turned into a pre-digested paste that spikes your blood sugar instantly.
And then we get to the additives, which are just wild. We're talking about preservatives like sodium benzoate. And this blew my mind reading this. When sodium benzoate mixes with ascorbic acid, which is just vitamin C, it can chemically react to form benzene inside the bottle.
Yes.
Benzene is a known human carcinogen.
And that product just sits on the shelf for a year because of emulsifiers. Things like polysorbate 80 or carrageenan.
Wait, what are those?
Their job is to keep fat and water from separating in the product.
Right. But what happens when you actually swallow them?
Think about how dish soap works.
Okay.
It has a hydrophilic end that loves water and a hydrophobic end that grabs fat. That's how it pulls grease off a pan.
Right.
Emulsifiers act the exact same way. When they hit your gut, they act like a detergent on the protective mucosal layer of your intestines.
A detergent on your gut.
Literally. They break down the surface tension of that mucus, eroding the barrier that keeps your gut contents separate from your bloodstream.
So they cause leaky gut.
Exactly.
They're literally dissolving the firewall, allowing undigested food particles and bacteria into the blood, which sends the immune system into this state of systemic inflammation.
It's a massive problem.
And we haven't even touched on agriculture yet. We have to talk about glyphosate, the active ingredient in Roundup.
It is the most widely used herbicide in the world. It's heavily sprayed on non-organic wheat, oats, and legumes right before harvest to dry them out.
Okay, but what does it do to us?
Biologically, it functions as a broad-spectrum antibiotic in your gut. It wipes out the beneficial bacteria you need for digestion and immune function. But worse, it also chelates minerals.
Wait, chelates. I've heard that term in chemistry. Doesn't that mean it acts like a chemical claw?
Yes.
Like it grabs onto positively charged minerals in the soil so the plant can't absorb them in the first place?
You absolutely nailed it. It binds to vital minerals like zinc, magnesium, and manganese. So the crops grown in glyphosate-treated soil are functionally mineral depleted before they even reach the factory.
That's crazy.
And when you consume the residue on your food, that chelation process continues inside your own body, locking up the minerals your enzymes need to function.
Okay, so if these compounds are eroding our gut linings, depleting our minerals, and loading our tissues with fat-soluble toxins, why are we consuming so much of them?
That's the big question.
Because, as the research shows, the industries behind them are absolute masters of disguise. Here's where it gets really interesting. Let's look at the language disguises on food labels. Take natural flavors. If you see that, you think, great, it's from nature.
It sounds perfectly wholesome, right? Very transparent.
But legally, under current regulations, natural flavors can refer to almost any flavor compound extracted from a plant or animal and then heavily chemically processed in a lab. It can include insect extracts. And my personal favorite horrifying fact from the research, castoreum, which is literally beaver anal gland secretions historically used for vanilla and raspberry flavoring.
It's disgusting. But it perfectly highlights how the word natural on an industrial label is a legally manipulated, practically meaningless term.
And no added sugar.
Yeah.
You see that on a juice or a snack bar and think you're making a healthy choice.
But it often just means no pure sucrose was added during the final processing step.
Exactly. There are over 60 different aliases for sugar used on labels to hide the actual sugar content. Dextrose, barley malt, agave, fruit juice concentrate.
It doesn't matter what poetic name they give it. Your liver processes it as a massive fructose load.
Then there is the fortification fallacy.
Oh, this one is infuriating. This is where the food industry takes a heavily processed, nutritionally bankrupt grain, sprays some synthetic vitamins on it at the very end of the line, and markets it as a health food.
The breakfast cereal example is just terrifying. You look at a box of fortified cereal and it boasts about iron content. But the ingredient list says reduced iron. That isn't a bioavailable nutrient your body recognizes easily. It's not biologically chelated iron like you would find in spinach or a piece of meat.
No, it's not.
It is elemental iron filings, literally tiny shards of metal added to the flakes, which are incredibly poorly absorbed by the body and can actually cause oxidative
It's
stress.
hard to believe until you really look into it. We also see category disguises creating what the industry calls a health halo.
Right, the health halo.
People assume if a package has an organic label, it's inherently a healthy whole food. But there are organic, ultra-processed cookies made with the exact same extreme heat and extrusion as conventional ones.
Yeah, vegan doesn't automatically mean whole food either. It just means devoid of animal products. I mean, an Oreo is technically vegan.
Exactly. And gluten-free products frequently swap out wheat for highly refined potato or tapioca starches that will spike your blood sugar far more aggressively than an actual piece of sourdough bread.
And all of this deception, all of it is engineered to achieve one goal: engineered overconsumption. The research dives into how food engineers specifically design products to hit the bliss point.
This is a crucial mechanism to understand. The bliss point isn't an accident. It is a precise, mathematically calculated ratio of salt, fat, and sugar designed to bypass a biological mechanism called sensory-specific satiety.
Okay, what is that?
Normally, if you eat a lot of one flavor, your brain gets bored and tells you to stop eating. The bliss point keeps the brain engaged without ever triggering the fullness signal.
Oh, I think everyone listening has had that moment where you look down at an empty family-sized bag of engineered tortilla chips and think, how did I just eat all of that without feeling physically full?
Oh, absolutely.
You would never be able to eat the caloric equivalent in, say, boiled potatoes or grilled chicken.
You wouldn't, because whole foods trigger stretch receptors in your stomach and release satiety hormones like leptin. The engineered chips completely bypass the stomach sensors and directly engage your brain's dopamine pathways and opioid receptors.
And I really want to emphasize this directly to you listening. Your cravings for these foods are not a character flaw. They're not a lack of willpower or some moral failing. You are experiencing a targeted neurochemical response to a product that was explicitly manipulated to hijack your biology.
It is addiction by design, truly.
But if you're wondering how this all stays perfectly legal, the sources explain the institutional disguises. In the United States, the FDA relies heavily on a designation called GRAS, generally recognized as safe.
Right, but the loophole there is that the safety data used to achieve that designation is frequently funded and submitted by the food and chemical industries themselves.
Which is the literal definition of letting the fox guard the henhouse.
It's a well-documented structural framework. The research points out that this is the exact same industry playbook used historically to defend tobacco, leaded gasoline, and artificial trans fats.
Wow.
The strategy is simple. Fund your own safety research, aggressively delay any independent negative findings, and completely ignore the precautionary principle.
Remind me, the precautionary principle is...
It states that we should take protective action based on a reasonable suspicion of harm, rather than waiting decades for absolute proof while the population gets sick.
Right. Okay, so taking all of this in, what does this actually mean for the listener? How do you actually survive this landscape without just giving up? Because realizing the extent of this manipulation, the water, the soil, the labels, the regulatory capture, it can feel incredibly enraging and overwhelming.
It is a lot to process. It really is.
Okay.
But you absolutely do not have to be a victim to it. There is a very practical, sovereign way out. And it starts with controlling the environment inside your own home.
Okay, actionable steps. Let's go.
We talked about water filtration, upgrading to a reverse osmosis system, and crucially, as you pointed out, remineralizing that water is the most effective way to drop your daily intake of halogens and pharmaceuticals.
Awesome. Then you look at your kitchen equipment, ditch the scratched nonstick pans coated in forever chemicals, cooking your food on Teflon literally off-gases neurotoxins into your kitchen.
Yeah, that's a big one to change.
Swap them out for cast iron, stainless steel, or high-quality ceramic. Get rid of the plastic food storage containers and use glass, especially for hot or acidic foods, because heat and acid accelerate the leaching of microplastics.
Absolutely. And when you are out navigating the grocery store, the ultimate rule is simple. Read the ingredient list, not the marketing claims on the front of the package.
Yes.
If you don't recognize the ingredients as actual food that could grow in nature, your cells won't recognize them either. And to manage the budget, use the Environmental Working Group's databases.
The EWG, Right.
They publish the Dirty Dozen, the produce with the highest pesticide loads that you should prioritize buying organic, and the Clean 15, which are generally safer to buy conventional.
They also have the Skin Deep database for personal care products.
Yes, that's a great resource.
This is huge because your skin is an absorptive organ, not a barrier. What goes onto your skin enters your bloodstream without being filtered by your liver first. So auditing your lotions and shampoos to avoid phthalates and synthetic fragrances is a massive way to reduce your total body burden.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, once you stop the influx of toxins, you have to rebuild the biological architecture.
Okay, how do we do that?
This is why traditional diets, whether it's the Mediterranean, the Okinawan, or traditional ancestral diets, work so predictably well.
Right.
It's not about agonizing over macronutrient ratios. It's about nutritional coherence. They rely on whole, intact foods. And crucially, they rely heavily on fermented foods.
Things like unpasteurized sauerkraut, authentic kimchi, milk kefir.
Yes. Remember that industrial food and glyphosate severely reduce the diversity of your gut microbiome. Fermented foods are nature's inoculation.
Oh, I love that phrasing.
They carry live, diverse cultures that directly populate the gut, restoring the ecosystem that regulates everything from your immune system's baseline to the synthesis of neurotransmitters like serotonin.
We also have to reclaim real, coherent fats.
Definitely.
Grass-fed butter, avocados, cold-pressed olive oil, tallow. For decades, public health messaging told us that natural animal fat was the enemy, driving everyone toward highly refined, inflammatory seed oils.
Which was a massive mistake.
But the historical research points out that much of that anti-fat framing was actually influenced by sugar industry-funded research in the 1960s to deflect the blame for heart disease away from sugar.
It's incredible. Reintroducing healthy, stable fats gives your cells the structural building blocks they actually need for their lipid membranes. And you don't need to go out and buy a bunch of expensive, unregulated detox supplements either.
Right.
As we established, your body already has brilliant maintenance systems. You just need to give them the materials to do their job.
Exactly. Your liver relies heavily on B vitamins, amino acids, and sulfur to run its detoxification pathways. You get that sulfur from whole foods like garlic, onions, and cruciferous vegetables like broccoli and Brussels sprouts.
And don't forget the lymphatic system.
Yes. Your lymphatic system, which is basically the body's sewage network, doesn't have a heart to pump it. It requires physical movement and muscle contraction to manually pump the waste out.
Sweating through exercise or a sauna is a primary, highly effective pathway for excreting heavy metals and plastics right through the skin.
And we cannot overstate the importance of sleep. The research highlights the glymphatic system.
Which is fascinating.
It really is. It's essentially the brain's nighttime waste clearance system.
Right. During deep sleep, your brain cells literally shrink slightly, allowing cerebrospinal fluid to wash through the brain tissue, flushing out the metabolic waste and accumulated proteins from the day.
It's like a physical wash cycle.
Exactly. So if you chronically truncate your sleep, you are functionally truncating your brain's ability to clean itself.
Wow. So to recap this incredible journey we've been on, your body is not a broken, fragile machine. It is an incredibly intelligent, coherent system that evolved to recognize truth. But right now, it is swimming in a sea of artificial engineered imposters that are scrambling its code.
And the gap between what your biology expects and what modern industry is providing, that gap is the wound.
That's a great way to put it.
Closing that gap by choosing whole coherent inputs and rejecting the chemical noise is a profound and achievable act of restoration. And the most important takeaway for you listening is to start trusting your own body's signals again.
Yes, the fatigue, the joint inflammation, the sudden mood shifts, the digestive issues, that isn't your body betraying you. That is your body desperately trying to communicate with you.
Exactly.
It knows what is biologically true, and it knows when it's being lied to by a chemical imposter. Trust that natural intelligence over any external marketing campaign.
It is the ultimate compass in a confusing landscape.
Now, I want to leave you with one final provocative thought to mull over something that builds directly on everything we just discussed about biological coherence. We've spent this time exploring how the physical body gets confused, inflamed, and bogged down when it's fed artificial chemical signals disguised as natural nutrition. But what about the mind?
Ooh, that is a fascinating parallel to draw.
Think about it. If our biology breaks down when exposed to hyperpalatable, engineered, ultra-processed food, what is happening to our psychology when we consume hyperpalatable, engineered digital environments?
Right.
Social media algorithms are meticulously designed with a digital bliss point to keep us infinitely scrolling. They perfectly mimic the signals of natural human connection, a notification, a like, a shared outrage, but they completely lack the actual nutritional depth of real in-person community.
They are delivering the rapid-fire dopamine of connection without any of the relational coherence or nervous system regulation that comes from sitting across from another human being.
Exactly. Are we experiencing a cognitive total body burden from all these artificial, fragmented digital inputs? Is our mental software crashing and causing unprecedented anxiety because we're constantly feeding it corrupted social code?
It makes you wonder.
It really does. If reading the ingredient labels is how we protect our physical body from imposters, what is the equivalent label reading for protecting our mind?
That might just be the most vital question for the modern era.
Absolutely. We want to enthusiastically thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep asking hard questions, keep reading those ingredient labels, and above all, keep trusting your natural intelligence. We'll see you next time.